Everyone, welcome back to our session with Specioser Mutheu. Really chuffed to have all our listeners here again. In the first episode, we set the stage with Octavia Carbon's story, who they are, what they do, and how they're building credibility in the DAC space in Africa. Specioser broke down the foundations of startup marketing, knowing your audience and defining your USP, and using credibility, not cash, to grow. So if you haven't listened to that episode, I recommend that you have a listen to it. But yeah, I think Specioser, let's dive straight back into it. Give me a little bit of info and our listeners a little bit of info on the tools. So there's obviously the analytics tracking tools that help make informed decisions on what's working and what's not working and where traffic is coming from. But what sort of marketing tools do you find work really well from a visual perspective and maybe, copywriting and things like that? What speeds up the process and what actually in essence might create more work for startups?
Yeah. So in terms of marketing sort of items, I think mostly visuals work well. People don't want just blocks of text reading through and trying to decipher what are you trying to say. So I feel visuals work well, and I usually advise keep it simple. Don't overwhelm people with the visuals and with the text within the visuals, because then they feel overwhelmed, like there's too much text. From someone seeing a if it's a picture, they are able to, or if it's a thumbnail, they're able to tell what you're talking about before they even maybe click on the content. Because even with LinkedIn, you find they try show like the first line of the content. So before someone can even click to see the entire block of text, or make sure when they see that picture, it captures what you're trying to say. Keep it simple. And of course, people care about people. So in the case where it's possible, you can have a background of something interesting where maybe it's someone doing something, or even something that speaks to your brand. It can be some of the stock images you have within. It's good to use stock images from the web, but make sure they also align with the brand. It can be, maybe for us, you'll notice we use a lot of Rift Valley pictures because our stories, we are leveraging the endowments in Rift Valley that resonates. So we won't just go pick up maybe a lion and put out buy carbon credits and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
find something that resonates with your brand. And in most cases, also start collecting these stock images. They come in handy when you're trying to come up with those visuals. Keep the wording plain and simple, and ensure even if it's for the visuals, the contrast, the lighting, because sometimes if someone sees maybe just a white background and the text is cream, then it's not as visually enticing to them. So contrast, stuff like that. These are some of the stuff I've also had to learn along the way. And also things like that, like alignment. Where do you put your logo? Is it visible from the word go, such that if they see this, they can associate, this is by Octavia Carbon. So even stuff like logo placement, the colors you use that speak to your brand, how you play with the contrast, because you might have brand colors, but they don't complement each other on visual. So don't overwhelm people with that. Just find a way to blend with it, and then use stock images from internally. And in the case where not, look for stock images that also speak to your brand and speak to your story, because the goal is to be consistent with what you're putting out. And even that means being consistent with visuals. Coming today, we see this, and then tomorrow there's something this. So find to create that storyline that speaks to your brand.
That's awesome. I like that concept as well because, when you were mentioning, make sure that your logo, the placements are right and that you're using the right colors, because there is that psychology to what's going out there, and people, maybe it doesn't need to be in their face, but it's just that constant reminder and that credibility that you speak of that sort of pushes through. And I think another thing that you said there that's really important is make use of your own collateral of stock images. So like when you're going to an event or anything, try to capture as much as you possibly can to use later, because I think a lot of startups, they might have an event
Yeah.
or something going on and they take one or two photos, but those images could be used, months and months down the line, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's true.
And Specioso, tell me as also, like, for startups, if by some miracle that they unlock this massive marketing budget, or maybe not too massive, but what would you advise that they start spending that marketing budget on? What has the most impact in your view? And do you have any examples or lessons learned where you have spent budget and what works and what doesn't work?
So if you do unlock a marketing budget, I think I invest on building even the brand assets. This includes some of the materials you'd use maybe to show up for in-person events, investing in a nice website over time as you grow. So building brand assets that can be replicated over time before you even go for the campaigns and all that. For instance, before we interacted, you went maybe to our website just to try understand what do they do. So even part of telling the story consistently is ensuring how you represent yourself across various, because even your website is part of the platform. So building these brand assets is also important because you want to build a brand that speaks for itself globally before anyone speaks from your team. When they go to their website, they can just clearly define what you do and create an impression from that. Should I get in touch with these people and stuff like that? I'm not a big advocate for campaigns. Maybe it's because I'm yet to get there. But especially nowadays, I'm a big fan of organic media growing and just organic cells and stuff like that. But also take my advice with a pinch of salt because it depends with the sector. And for some, you need that engagement and that paid media to drive conversion and to drive traction to your brand. But I think first and foremost, focus on building the brand assets and refining them to a point that when your logo stands or when your logo is just seen, they just relate it with this world-class brand.
Yeah, and get really good quality. But I think on that note as well, do you think that startups should be spending a lot of money on getting design work? Like, I'm always curious, when you send PDFs, do you think that people are still reading PDFs? Do you think it's a good, investment for startups to get that kind of collateral going?
So it's not in the sense that investing in brand assets, it's not the PDFs and the pitch decks that you use. Actually go, don't break your bank over this. One way is also to try leverage people working to support your brand, and they're willing to even some of the times you find actually an important point I didn't mention before. You find some of the established sort of universities or schools, they have programs in which they want their students to work on real life projects. So some of the ways you can also outsource this is by telling them to help with some of the functions or
Brilliant.
some of the niches that you're looking to build on, because they want the experience but they don't have real life projects to work on.
Yeah.
So even collaborating with this, but of course even for them they are picky in the sense that they also want to do something that is value to them. But even away from that, in terms of investing in the brand assets, I don't know why for some reason I've forgotten the name of banners, stuff like the banners.
The same.
Yeah, yeah, the stand-up banners where if you're invited to your event, you and your banner, you just prop it up and stuff like that, or even ask your partners, is it possible to bring my banner? But even away from that, the likes of website. I don't think PDFs are the most efficient things, especially in this era of AI and people. I think concentration span has reduced over time, so people just want to consume content within the first few minutes and they're done with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, not necessarily the PDFs. I think PDFs you can easily create that for yourselves. But also depending on what your budget is within, you can decide what to prioritize and what not to prioritize. And maybe the first step would be if you are just a founder and you have a small team, then also maybe bring someone for an internship to help support with some of these marketing functions, map up, deciding who's the ideal customer profile, and then from there on, now you can decide on how do we go about attaining these customers.
Yeah, I like that component. You mentioned the focus on organic marketing, but it ties in really nicely to what you're saying about, are PDFs still being read because people do have these small attention spans. So, people are searching for their answers and building trust on AI, where they're like, Octavia Carbon, what do they do? Are they great or not? Kind
Yeah.
of thing. And that PDF isn't necessarily going to get pulled up by the AIs and things like that. So the continuous focus on organic marketing, because it's long-term strategy is.
Yeah, and I think even the aspect that you have mentioned, I think people want the interaction. They don't want something static where they're just
Yeah.
consuming this info. They want a way of making even this sort of marketing in a way that it feels interactive and it doesn't feel overwhelming for them to decide. And I think that's why if you go in the cosmetic industry, how TikTok has been able to build that, because it's easy. I know, oh, I know this influencer. What do they see? What are they saying about the brand? Rather than going to what, if I see an ad on Instagram about the brand, I'll probably just scroll. But if I follow an influencer who has approved the brand, then I'll be like, okay,
Yeah.
I want to get that as well. So that building that credibility even within the people over time, whereby if someone speaks about Octavia, I'm like, okay, if we said so, then yeah. So you
Yeah.
find
That's
most of the
really good.
time, yeah,
That's really helpful though, because again, it all ties into what you're saying about these partnerships, whether those partnerships are your internal team or whether they partners in your networks or the VCs or accelerator programs, and like getting other people to say your brand is good is the first step in the process kind of thing if you want to build that long-term strategy. But Specioser, you've also sort of discussed this element of getting interns on board and obviously your staff helping you in that marketing strategy to expand your reach. Have you found that your branding or Octavia Carbon's branding has enabled you guys to hire more people? Do you find that talent is reaching out to you and you're not necessarily going out, putting out a gazillion job ads and hoping for the best?
definitely. So having a credible brand is people want to associate with that, and that includes people who are seeking jobs. And you find for them, if they're so closely aligned with sort of the mission and they want to be part of it, they're even hungry to join the team. In this case, we get a lot of inbound requests. Even away from the talent pipeline we have established with the university, we get a lot of inbound requests, people just asking, do you have any open positions? Or even we created now a function where people can just share their qualifications and then we can just put it in the pipeline in case we open for that. Because you find a lot of people are just reaching out wanting to know. Sometimes you find out even when they don't get through the first application, they apply again and again and they don't get tired. So they are so committed to being part of the team that they are constantly applying for this, and with that it comes with a lot of inbound requests, and it has actually helped us attract them sort of the highest sort of talent pool within the country, because we try hire the best engineers who are graduating, whether it's the top 5 from the country and stuff like that. So it makes it easier even to sort of attract these people, because they also want to be part of this big mission that you're building. And for them, it becomes less of what you're paying them. For them, they just want to be part of the team. Some actually even volunteer. Can I come sort of volunteer for a 6-month period and stuff like that?
Interesting.
It hurts sometimes because there are not so many opportunities and you wouldn't want to waste their time if there aren't vacancies.
Yeah.
But we try as much to keep them engaged and informed of potential future opportunities.
That's really awesome. Because in essence, what you're sort of saying is that whether you employ them or not, although it's a really fantastic return on investment if they're willing to join and gain that exposure and they're not expecting you to pay massive salaries because they believe in the vision and mission. But I suppose they're also your brand ambassadors and they will be the ones sharing your content and trying to get you to look at them and remember them for future applications. Have you found that you've also the management of applications and candidates as inbound requests that they have to be managed quite well from a branding perspective?
In most cases, because they know more about the brand and they understand, you find that it's a people pre-screen themselves because you have like high value candidates and everyone is high qualified and stuff like that. But yeah, it makes it easier even to screen through the various sort of applications that do come through, and even over time, even like in case where we don't even get to, maybe it's an open role for one person, but you see that they are a good candidate, it's easy to go back, and even this person is more committed to even follow up. You see at this point this would come up, do you still have the open position and stuff like that. So it makes it easy to manage the talent within the organization because you have a pool to pick up from that is already like vetted for you. So it makes it kind of easier.
That's really awesome. If you were to give advice to startups that are looking to generate more brand exposure and obviously get the most bang out of their buck, you've been through a lot of really insightful and useful information. What else would you recommend that they look out for and do from a marketing perspective to achieve their goals?
Yeah, I'd say don't wait to start. The earlier you start telling your story, the easier it becomes to kind of build that credibility over time. And of course, importantly, start with what's within your reach. I understand not you might not have the partnerships or know anyone on the ecosystem, but even just your story and your voice, maintaining progress, and over time, the consistency kind of builds the roadmap of where you want to be. So, bottom line, just don't wait to start. Get started with what's within your reach, and that's your voice. And over time, that builds credibility for your brand.
That's really, really helpful. So don't be scared and get stuck in. But Speciosa, if people are wanting to with you, where's the best place for them to reach you?
Mostly LinkedIn, Specioser Mutheu. So that's the best place where you can reach out to me.
Awesome. But thank you so, so much for joining. I really do appreciate your time. And yeah, it's been great chatting.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lini. Thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed the session. You make it so easy to talk. So thank you so much.